guys, so I'm finally back with the next installment for the Wonderland series, and this one is inspired by Absalom, and I do apologize for taking so long to get this one out to you guys. I decided to make a few costume pieces and props and things that I hadn't planned on doing, so I'm about a week behind, but from now on, the videos should be more consistent. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat for all that behind the scenes updates and all that jazz. But thank you guys so much for your patience, and let's get into this one. So I've started out by marking where my wings are going to hit on my chest so that I know where I want my body to go, and I'm just using a NYX Micro Brow Pencil to outline the butterfly body, and then we're going over that outline with a black body paint. Then after I finished the outline, I decided to fill in everything outside of that with the black body paint, and I ended up leaving a blank space for where the wings would hit, but I would really just recommend filling in everything. And I would also recommend to wait until after you're done with the entire makeup, that way you don't get any fallout all over your black like I did. I'm now going in with a Makeup Forever Flash Color to fill in the entire body. And if you do have a cooler toned blue shade, I would recommend using that. This one is more of a turquoise, but you'll see we're gonna go in and do a couple things to help cool it down. But if you do have something a little bit cooler to begin with, that would be ideal. And also, this is a cream makeup, so if you prefer, you can use a water activated body paint as well. Now I'm going in with a cooler toned light blue eyeshadow and applying that all over the cream makeup to both help cool it down a little bit and to set the cream. I'm then going in with a darker kind of purpley toned blue eyeshadow to start defining some of the details of the segments of the body, and you'll want to be sure to give these a slight curve down so they're not just straight across, to give the body a little bit of dimension. And you can see here that I started doing the lines pretty close together at first, but later on I decided to remove some of them to lengthen some of the segments. I'm also using this shadow to blend in from the outside edges, again to start giving the body some dimension. Then I'm going in with my foundation brush with the extra cream makeup on it and just blending out some of those lines that I want to get rid of. Then once we get up onto our actual neck, I am starting to curve those lines more and more to both make it look more natural with our face and to just give the body some more shape. We're then going in with a black eyeshadow to first start adding some spots to some of the segments, and we're only going to see half of the circle on the front because the idea is that the other half is on the back side of the body, so we would only see a portion of the circle on the front. So I'm just doing 3 of those on each side, and then we're using that black eyeshadow to darken our blue lines. And we want to focus the darkest and thickest part of our shadows toward the outside of the body. We're then going in with a pencil brush to start blending each of those lines downward to create more shadowing. We're then going in with a purple flash color on this kind of weird looking cut up fan brush, and we are applying that from the outer edges, again blending that in. And I was just kind of experimenting and playing around with this brush. You totally can just use any kind of eyeshadow or blending brush that you want to. Since we are going over with shadow in a minute, it's going to cover up the texture, but again, I just felt like playing around. Then to top off that purple, I'm first going in with more of a magenta fuchsia shade, and again just blending that from the outer edges in toward the center, and then we're going to top that off with a bit of a cooler toned purple shade. We're then taking a shimmery white shadow and using that to highlight down the center of the body. And I'm just making sure to blend that out so we don't have any harsh lines. Then we're gonna go back in with our black body paint to start darkening and defining all of our details. When we define our lines, we're going to start giving the body more of a round shape. So for each of the segments, we're going to round out each of the corners so that it looks a little bit more rounded and natural rather than super angular and sharp. I then went back in with my black eyeshadow to darken up and even out the black body paint from before, which again should have waited until after I was totally done. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I'm also using a little bit of that black eyeshadow to again blend along each of those segment lines just to create more of a shadow below each of the lines. Then to finish off the body, I'm going back in with my highlight to just brighten it up a bit. Moving on to the face, I've already got my black scleras in from Sound contact lenses, and I have covered my brows. I'll have the video linked up in the corner if you want to see how I do that, and also down in the description. So I'm starting out with my Ben Nye Clown White, which is a super thick white cream makeup, and as I've done in a couple previous videos, I'm applying that to the hairline to flatten it out. If you prefer, you can always use a bald cap, and that can cover your ears as well, like I did on my maggot tutorial. But I've been pretty obsessed with doing this lately. I'm not sure why. I just think it's really cool. So I've applied that and I'm slicking it back and then pinning it up with a clip and then just bobby pinning it where needed. And then once I've got it all pinned back, I'm going in with another layer to thicken it so it's super flat. And then I'm taking a soft powder brush to blend out the edges so we don't have any harsh edges. And then going back in with that turquoise flash color and applying that all over the face, onto the ears, blending it down onto the jawline, and also up into the hair. And the only places I'm leaving blank are my eyelids and then my lips. Then going in with a white face powder, which we didn't do on the body, but I wanted a little bit more security on the face, so we're doing the powder and then the eyeshadow. So I'm just applying that very generously with a powder puff all over where I have the cream makeup. And then I'm using a brush to brush away any of the excess powder, and then again going in with that pale blue shadow over top of that. Keep in mind that if you decided to use a water activated paint instead of a cream, you don't necessarily need to set it, but you can always use a shadow to help even out the color or to matte out the paint if it is a little bit shiny. I'm now applying an eyeshadow base all over the lids as well as underneath the eyes, and then to be a little bit more gentle, especially since I'm wearing the full scleras, I'm using a soft fluffy brush to blend that out rather than my fingers, and then I'm topping that off with an eyeshadow that matches my natural skin tone. Going back in with that darker blue that we used earlier, we're just really packing that onto the inner third and the outer third of the eyelids. And for now, we are going to start blending this out a little bit, and then we'll come back to it later. We're going to start creating some more of the face contouring using the same color. So moving to more of a flat shadow brush, I'm starting to define the nose contour, and I'm taking this down the sides of the nose, then just kind of following the natural curve of my bone structure and angling it up slightly onto my brow bone. I'm first defining those lines and then going back in it to build up the color a little bit. I'm then adding some shading around the nostrils, focusing the darkest part right in that little crease and then blending it out. And then I'm also applying that to the bottom of the tip of my nose and also kind of the top parts of the nostrils and then blending it up. This part looks a little strange to begin with, but I'm applying it to my Cupid's bow and blending that up toward the nose, and then also a little bit down onto the lip. And then we're also going to apply this just under the bottom lip and along the cheekbones and up onto the temples and also along the jawline, just kind of where you would normally contour your face, just a lot more intense. I'm creating a bit of a widow's peak down onto the forehead, and then I'm also blending this shadow along the hairline. And you'll want to be careful when you're blending this out if you did do this cream makeup, because since it is cream makeup and it's so thick, it's hard to set, so it will end up kind of mixing with your shadow if you're not careful. And then I'm also just blending that blue in toward the corners of my mouth a little bit more, because we will be hollowing that out later. Moving back to the eyes, I'm taking an eyeliner that is pretty close to the shade of our blue eyeshadow, and I'm applying that to the lower waterline and then using a pencil brush to smudge that along the lash line. And then if you have the sclerosin, you'll want to be careful whenever you're working around the lower lash line, because in my experience, if you hit it just right, the suction can break and then the lens can start popping out. So just be careful. And then I almost forgot about my ears, so I'm just taking a bit of that blue shadow and shading on my ears. And then I'm taking this copper shade. It is one of the prismatic shadows from NYX. And I'm starting by applying that to the about the outer third of the eye, maybe a little bit more, and then blending it down, and then I'm also applying that to the very inner part of the lower lash line as well. Again, just build this color up until you're happy with it, and then we're going to go back in with the white highlight shade that we used before and apply that to the inner corners. Again, with the purple flash color, we're applying that to the center of the lids where we have that blank space, and then we're topping that off with the purple and kind of fuchsia shades that we used earlier. And we're just gonna go back and forth between the blue and the purples to help blend everything out nicely. And then to highlight the face, we're going in with a metallic silver eyeshadow. We're applying this to the tops of the cheekbones, on the chin, the bridge of the nose, and the sides of the forehead. Then we're going to darken some of our contours using the black eyeshadow. I'm adding some of the purple to the contours as well. Now we're going to start creating the shape of that little tuft of fur that he has on his forehead, and I'm just using that dark blue shadow to start roughing out the shape. And we're also going to do some shading with this color. So I ended up filming this look twice, and I actually ended up liking the shape that I had for the first one, which I have a picture on my Instagram. But it's just more straight up on the outside edges rather than curved in, because this one kind of ended up looking more like a flower petal, which I didn't really like, but you can do whatever you would like to do. His is more just straight up. I'm also creating some lines underneath and around the eyes, and then I'm going to go in with a black eyeshadow to start darkening that shape on the forehead. Now I'm going back in with that purple flash color to create some spots up on the forehead and also along the cheekbones. These are just kind of oddly shaped and in varying sizes. Then again, we're going over top of the cream using both of those same purple and fuchsia shadows. Now we're going back in with the black body paint. Sorry guys, this is kind of like sporadic everywhere. I filmed this twice, and so I was kind of tweaking everything as I went along. So hopefully it's not too confusing for you. But we're just going to define all the details using the black body paint on a super fine detail brush. And we're connecting that forehead piece down onto our eyebrow and nose contour. And then we're darkening those lines down the sides of the nose, and we're going to create some kind of short hair-like flicks with the brush to give it kind of more of a furry look. Now we're going to draw a straight line up the very center of the nose and connect it to that point up top there. Then creating a V coming up from the tip of the nose, and then we're connecting that line down to there, and then we're going to curve the lines of that V out just a little bit around the nostrils. We're also adding some shading coming up from the center of that V. Then just adding that black to the lines underneath and around the eyes. We're also using the black to line along where we're going to hollow out the cheeks. Now we're going back to that funny little fan brush that we used earlier, but this time it's actually going to serve a purpose because we want to create some more of those fur lines. But with this brush, it just makes it a lot easier rather than having to do it all in one stroke. You could also use a super separated dual fiber brush, or you could even try and cut your own brush to help create the same effect. But we're just doing that along all of our black contours and also on the ears, and now we're going in with the purple and the black eyeshadows to hollow out underneath those lines we just created on the cheeks. We want to keep it the darkest right along that line and then blend it out so that the deepest part of our contour is right along that line. Next, we're adding some of that copper shadow up onto the forehead, kind of where we applied the silver shadow before, and then we're also going to start adding this in to our little piece on the forehead. I've switched to a thinner brush and I'm mainly focusing this down from the points at the top, and then I'm going in with a gold liquid liner to add some more of those fur-like strokes. I'm then going back in and adding a little bit of that copper shadow along the bottom, and then we're using the gold liner just at the inner corner portion of the copper shadow on the lower lash line. Then using Jeffree Star's Drug Lord, you could also use a white body paint or a white eyeliner. I'm going in and adding some highlights to the piece on the forehead. And then I felt like it needed a bit more blue, so I'm adding some more of that darker blue, just kind of at that V in the center, and then I'm starting to outline it using the black body paint. I started out with a very light outline, but then decided to go in with a darker outline to define it. I'm not sure which I like better. But you can decide for yourself what you want to do. I'm then shading underneath the nostril lines and underneath the forehead piece using a little bit of the black eyeshadow. And I guess I didn't show it, but I did shade a little bit around the entire forehead piece as well. I'm now tightlining my eyes using a black eyeliner, and then I'm also going to smudge this up onto the lash line just to help black it out a little bit. And then we're applying some black mascara to top and bottom lashes. Now for the lips, I'm first using that same blue liner that we used in the lower waterline, and I'm both lining and filling them in. I'm then going in with Jeffree Star's Weirdo, and I'm mainly focusing this at the corners, and then I'm using my fingers to just messily blend that in. We're not going for a super clean ombre or anything, but I do want the corners to be darker. Then I'm just going to continue adding a little bit of the black and smudging it around, and I'm also going to add in some of the purple flash color, as well as the blue eyeshadow, the purple, and the fuchsia eyeshadow. Basically, I just went back and forth between all of the different colors until I was happy with it. There's really no rhyme or reason for why I did anything on the lips. So just do what you feel. You can make it lighter if you want to, darker, you can do a solid color, whatever you want. And I also added in some of Drug Lord, which is this white, and I decided to keep the texture that the applicator left because I thought it looked nice. I also applied a pair of stacked NYX Wicked Lashes, and then also did a super quick black line along the top lash line, and then I finished off with some setting spray. So here we have the finished face makeup, and now we just need to add our wings. Of course, you can totally 100% buy some butterfly wings, but of course I had to make some. So these are made out of poster board, acrylic paints, elastics to hold them together and onto my shoulders, and then also some wire which I attached to the back so that I could bend them and keep them in place. And since I knew I was just using them for the video and photos, I didn't bother covering the back with anything to make it look all nice and clean. And then I had a thought after filming this: you could totally wear like black tights on your arms or a long sleeve black shirt with a low v-neck if you want to not worry about having to paint your arms and you want to wear it out. And I'm also planning on doing a video on how I made these wings if you're interested in that as well. Thank you guys for watching and for all your patience, and I will see you next time.